the Workforce Connections podcast, where we discuss workforce development in Southern Nevada. Here's your host.
Hi, and welcome to the WC podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, really a legend here in our community. We have Dr. Lonnie Wright, a basketball legend in his own right. Lonnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cruz.
So I'm excited to talk to you because, you have many facets here of your life in Las Vegas. And let's start at the very beginning. I remember when I met you, you told me stories. Well, first, let me tell you, I think you know this. I came here to the States in 1987, and I was trying to learn English, so I enrolled in UNLV and English as a second language. And a young kid told me, "Are you going to the game tonight?" So I ended up finding out how to get a student ticket to these games, and I learned and met or got to see Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon and Anderson Hunt, and got to really enjoy that era of UNLV basketball. But that era was only possible because before that, Jerry Tarkanian had early teams, of which, again, this young man, Lonnie Wright, was a part of. And so tell us a little bit about how Jerry found you and how you laid that foundation.
Well, this is going to surprise you. I was recruited by Roland Todd. Roland Todd, he's the one that really started the Running Rebels. So I was recruited by Roland Todd. Roland Todd, after he signed me and another guy, he went to the Portland Trail Blazers as the head coach. And I kind of felt taken back because I had other scholarships I could have gone to. I wanted to play for Roland Todd. So Roland went to the Portland Trail Blazers, and here comes another coach, John Baer, who brought in all of his horses. Every coach brings in their own players. And so I literally had to make his team. And I did. And then he stayed for about 2 years. And here comes Tark, and I had to make his team to keep my scholarship. So it was a very challenging 4 years. I was Tark's first ball player to graduate on time. I graduated in 4 years. I could have played another year for Jerry, but I was ready to graduate and get on with the business, and had a chance to go to Italy. I had a chance to go to Italy, but I didn't. I ended up working on my master's and got into the hotel and gaming business.
Now, I do know, Lonnie, before you got full-time into the hospitality business here, you did spend some time coaching overseas.
Yes.
So went from being the talent on the court to actually helping to develop talent. So I always look at that as, I don't know if you do, but that was your first endeavor into workforce development, because you were developing the next, workforce of the basketball pipeline. And so tell us a little bit about what it was like to be overseas and develop talent there.
Well, first of all, it was a lot of fun. We were sponsored by Caesar's Palace, and we went to Taipei, Singapore, Hong Kong, and South Korea for 3 years in a row. It was a unique marketing effort where they utilized basketball to really get the word out about Caesars. Now, back in those days, you couldn't talk about gaming overseas and that. So we did basketball, and then we would end up on different shows. In Taipei, it was a show that was like the stars against I forget the name of that show. But anyway, it was set up where we would go up against some starlets, some beautiful girls, and we would play these games and stuff like that on national television. And that was how we could promote Caesar's Palace. Not gaming, but Caesar's. However, when we would come back to the States, different gamblers would join us, and basically one of them would pay for our entire trip. Wow. That's how big it was. So I won we won every game in 3 years. We played against their national teams. And so it made me look like a real, good coach. I was decent, and I got offered a job from Singapore to be their national coach. And I was up against a real Russian coach, full-time Russian coach, and I got the job. So I spent some time coaching overseas and coaching this traveling team. It was a lot of fun. it was all running rebels. So
Wow.
you could have coached the team, because I had all the horses,
And Lonnie were you married back then or still a single man?
I was married.
Oh, okay.
I was married, and I took my sons with me as ball boys.
Wow.
They traveled. My two sons probably had more stamps in their passports than most adults.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of fun. When I used to put on the alumni games here in Las Vegas, bringing in Magic and Michael Jordan and all those guys, to raise money to send athletes back to school, not only to get their baccalaureates but their masters. I got my master's through that program. That was back in the day when athletes could only get 4 years to graduate, and we proved, James Rogers, rest his soul, we proved that, and we sent this to the NCAA, that it's very difficult for a regular student to graduate in 4 years. How can you expect a student athlete that travels, that practice 3 to 4 or 5 hours a day to graduate in 4 years? So they heard us, and because we started putting on these alumni games to pay for guys to go back to school, the ones that put all their eggs in one basket to play pro ball, we gave them a shot to come back. They would play in the alumni game, and they would utilize some of that money to go back to school and get their degrees. So that was something that no other Division I school has ever done, and we celebrate that. UNLV in Las Vegas, we celebrate the fact that we're the ones that really shine the light on student athletes and the challenges that they had.
That's awesome, Lonnie. I'm going to show you a photo, and we're going to put this on our post-production so our viewers and our listeners can see it. But I want to get your reaction on this photo right here.
Oh, my God. That's me. I was probably 18, 19. That was my freshman year. That was doing photo day. Where did you get this photo from?
I can't tell you the sources, Lonnie.
Oh, my goodness.
So tell me about those guys next to you right there.
That was Mike Whaley. I think he became a doctor, and that was Harry Shaw, who graduated in hotel management like I did.
Wow.
He was both of them outstanding athletes and outstanding student athletes. Student come first,
Lonnie, what were you there? $150, 180? What?
Don't start me to lie, man. I was probably
you look really
215.
I lean 215. All muscle,
brother.
Yeah, wow.
That was back in the day I could run through a wall. No.
So you talk about running, and before we move off basketball into the next chapter of your life, I want to ask you because, I have a young daughter, as you know, who's a physical therapist, graduated from the physical therapy doctorate program at UNLV. So she's a rebel at heart. We've been to games. And I told her that I'm interviewing you today, so she wants me to bring her a autographed picture of this UNLV legend. But I also saw her play, as you said, through our middle school, high school, and her college years in California. And I saw her, like you said, struggle, balance the load of practicing, traveling, all that. But the thing that she didn't play was this intense, never again seen. I mean, I see it at Golden State Warriors now, but and maybe the Sacramento Kings of a decade ago. But this thing called the run and gun offense. I mean, tell us about that, because I heard that to play that well on game day, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Can you tell us about the work?
Let me tell you, when I started playing for Jerry, we didn't touch a basketball for at least 3 to 4 weeks. All of our work was on a track. And I said, man, am I on a track scholarship? We would have to run 5 miles and 1 mile, the 220 and 100 yard, and never touch a basketball, man. Just come back out there and he would start us off with that 5 mile run. And by that time, you're kind of ready to say, man, when is this going to be over? And it depends on, how we did. It would depend on how long practice would go. I said that to say this: to have a running gun, you have to literally run people off the floor. And we proved that this running gun thing was really legit, man, because when we started having the alumni games and we played against UCLA twice, we ran them off. And they had All-Americans, All-Pros on their team. I mean, Bill Walton, I can name all of these guys, Curtis Rowe, Sidney Wicks, the first game. But we ran them off. Then we played 2 alumni games against Georgetown, ran them off. And that was with, your big guy, Ewing and Sleepy Floyd. Wow. Those were great teams. But they got their best against our best. We ran them off. We played UNC twice. First time with the Greyhound, Walter Davis. Ran him off. Then we brought in Michael Jordan. Here's the story. So I pick up Michael Jordan from the airport, and we go to. He was staying at the Sahara. A good friend of mine got him a suite at the Sahara, and so we were walking by the crap pit. The 21 pit, and he goes in his pocket and money plays $500. He lost it. So my friend who comped him said, hey, always on his job, hey, we could give you a marker. You want a marker? Yeah, I'll take a marker for $5,000. He took that marker for $5,000 and ran it up to about 25,000, 30,000. And then by that time, a whole lot of people were around us. And I'm saying, man, then he started splitting tens, doubling down on blackjack. He lost the money on purpose. And so we finally got up to his room and I said, hey, Mike, listen, next time you want to give your money away, take care of your boy. Yeah. He said, well, the next time I go gambling, you can handle the money. Guess what? We never did go gambling again, so I couldn't do that. But Mike wanted to play golf out at Shadow Creek. And so I called Steve Wynn's office, and when they found out, and they kind of knew that Mike was in town, I said that he wanted to go play golf at his place. No problem. We got him a golfing tee time. And so he, the time that he played was the day of the game. And so during the day of the game, it was pretty hot. And Mike went out there and he said, I'm only going to play 9 holes because I want to go to the shoot around and, be fresh. I said, cool. So he loved it at Shadow Creek. Yeah. And so he says, hey, LW, I'm gonna go ahead and play the back 9. I said, what? I said, well, Mike, are you going to be on time for shoot around? He said, I'll be there. If I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. He was there. But I saw him dissipating, man. He was sweating. And you know how hot Vegas is. He was sweating. So before the game, I went to all of our guards. I said, hey, man, I saw him with my own eyes. He's going to be tired today. And I told Freddie Banks, I told Reggie Theus, all the guys that were guards, I said, man, get in this jog. Now, this is a fun game, but we want to win. Yeah. So I say, man, get in this jog, play him tough. He's a little tired. So by the time Mike figured out that these guys was gonna play him tough, he looked at Freddie Banks, and it seemed like
he changed.
He changed. His head started spinning, his fangs started growing. I said, man. He went off for 46 points, but we still beat him.
Oh, wow.
We still beat him. We couldn't stop Mike.
Wow.
But we still beat him. But the game, UNLV changed the college game to a certain extent. Those that wanted to run and gun like the Rebels. And you mentioned the Warriors. They changed the pro game with the run and gun. Mm-hmm. So the run and gun works, but you got to be in shape because you saw the Warriors during the third quarter. That's when they would overtake people because, after you play a half and you put your energies there, then you come out that third quarter and they're on you like it's the first quarter. That's when that energy comes in. Yep. And then they coast through the fourth quarter, So we would just run people off. The guy who's a good friend of mine, who was a freshman when I played, Eddie Owens has the most points of any rebel without the 3-point play.
Wow.
Now, he was putting them
Wow.
up. He had a great, he was a left-hander.
Was he a quicker trigger than Sudden Sam?
No, nobody's quicker than Sudden Sam now.
Right.
Sudden Sam would come across the half court and
Right.
let it fly, man.
Yeah.
And Tarkby said,
Right.
and then it falls through.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. Because Sudden Sam was probably one of the best shooters I ever seen. And I'm talking about Steph Curry, all of them. Sudden Sam was just, that's why they call him Sudden Sam, man, because he'll come across and all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
And they would just run people to death, man. Sutton was a heck of a guy. I used to take he and his brother Willie on those trips to the Far East. They weren't all rebels. I would take the Smith brothers, but most of them were former rebels, and those guys would just kill. Willie played for Missouri, All-American. He was a great ball player, man.
Wow. Well, Lonnie, let's move off basketball now because I want to share with our listeners how your second chapter also you became a legend in this workforce development field, right? But you mentioned the name, Steve Wynn, and in 1987 he started building a hotel that, it was the first hotel of that scale since 20 years because the International, which became the Hilton, and now the Westin, was the last hotel to be built in Las Vegas of that scale, a 3,000-room hotel. And so the Mirage, which opened in '89, was a huge deal. But the big question was where they were going to find all that talent, all those workers. So I know you worked with Artie Nathan, and you made sure there was programs and training available to underrepresented populations here in town. And so that's something we're still, ironically, today trying to tap into, disadvantaged youth and underrepresented populations to try to give them the skills to pay the bills, right?
Absolutely.
And so tell us about how you started and how that became Hospitality International Training.
Well, I did some training with Mr. Nathan. However, my first training was outside of the state of Nevada and was with Native Americans. I would go and train from front of the house to back of the house and gaming. I tell a lot of my students, whether at UNLV when I taught there or CSN, the first day of orientation, I said, I'll tell them about myself and I show pictures, and they'll see a picture almost similar to yours about when I played ball and stuff. I said, do you know I have done everything from front of the house to back of the house. I say, look at my size. I was a security guard at one time. I was in surveillance. I was a pit floorman. I dealt all the games. I said I started with a 4-year degree in hotel management, but when I started at the Sahara, and when I saw the dealers cashing out all this money, I said, man, let me go to dealer school. So I learned the hotel side and also the gaming side. But I taught Native Americans, and we broke the cycle of poverty and joblessness within the ranks of some tribes in Arizona. I went up to train Aboriginals up in Canada for Mr. Bennett's daughter, the guy that built Circus, yeah. And her first name is escaping me right now. But I went up there and did some training, and it was so rewarding to be able to take people that were, some of them were, really in dire straits, man, and to see, one of the last places I trained for Native Americans was back right after 9/11 in Eagle Pass, Texas. And they were the Kickapoo Nation. And we went there and we stayed in some trailers. Matter of fact, we made our gaming lab a trailer. We had, the crap table, all of the tables there. And what was so challenging, but in retrospect, it was very rewarding. the Kickapoo, they spoke Kickapoo was their first language. Second language was Spanish. Third language was a broken English, and we still were able to train them. One thing about numbers, they don't change, man. Mm-hmm. So once we could get that across to them in craps or roulette, it was done. Now I look back, and if you go to Lucky Eagle in Eagle Pass, Texas, now that poor group of Kickapoo tribe, that when we met them, they were literally, the tribe was living under a bridge, man, and had one spigot of water, for the whole tribe. And now, just go online and look up Lucky Eagle and see where they've gone. That is rewarding to me. You get paid, but it's rewarding when you can each one reach one, each one teach one, and make a difference in their life. It's just something that became addicting to me and my staff and my wife, who's also retired as a industry expert in hospitality. So it's then from there we did those things for Steve Wynn. The last deal I did with Steve, he and Bobby Baldwin called me out at the college and they asked me, we want you to we want you to recruit 150 dealers, and we want you to train them, and we want them to be African American. I said, oh, African American. And he said, and the reason why he wanted that, he was trying to get a license in Detroit. And he wanted to show the Mayor Archer, and the rest of the guys people were trying to get those licenses, that he could take the same criteria of how they were going to hire people, apply it here, and make it successful in the most expensive hotel known to man at that time, Bellagio. And so we did it, and it became a real success. And 9 times out of 10, the years have gone by now, but at one time you could go out at any one of his properties, and if you saw a black dealer and you say, hey, do you know Professor Wright? Yeah, that's how I got here, Mm-hmm. So those types of things are rewarding to you, to your life, man. Money can't buy that. And when you know that you given to the least of these, man, it does something. And so from there, we went into the prisons. It wasn't my first time in prison. I shared with you before we came on air that as a young student athlete, after I finished, I joined this group called Athletes in Action, where we would go into the prisons and play basketball. And I was sharing with your staff, after we do a couple of 360 dunks and stuff, they're ready to hear about Christ, Yeah. So we were able to witness to them, But going into the prisons, the men and women prisons, and training people and taking wards of the state and turning them in and transitioning them into taxpayers. We started getting love from both sides of the aisle, from Democrats and Republicans, that now we're taking some of this burden off the Nevada taxpayer by adding these, the least of these, into the tax, being a taxpayer. So those things are really rewarding, and a lot of people just don't realize that people, if you recruit the right people, and that's how Chef Jeff got involved with us. Chef Jeff understood the psychographics of people being in prison. I've never been arrested, by the grace of God. That's pretty rare for an African American my age never to have been arrested, but I've never been arrested.
I love how you say that, Lonnie, because you didn't say I've never offended, I never got caught, right? You've just never been arrested.
Is something wrong with this mic?
I say the same thing. I say that we're all lucky because,
No, we didn't get caught.
Right.
We didn't get caught. Yeah. If there's anyone that say that they're without sin, they're a liar, and the truth is not within them. Now, I got that quote straight from the Word of God.
Yeah.
So no, you're right. So that gives you some type of feeling for people when you go in there and say, by the grace of God, that could have been me. But recruiting the right person, and that's where Chef Jeff came in. He gave us a list of things to ask people, and I'll never forget. He says, Professor Wright, ask them this question, and if they answer no to these questions, don't include them in on the training, because all they want to do is get out of their cell to eat a steak and eat a sandwich and that sort of thing, and not really change their life, and that would hurt our statistical data. So without him, we trained 65 youthful offenders in high desert and southern desert. Every one of them graduated. We had one thing about this community, man. People don't know this about this community. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. They Sin City and all, but you never find a city like this that gives so much to the least of these, man. I mean, people come the graduation that you were at with Jim Marsh. What a sweetheart, man. Mm-hmm. This guy. I mean, we ask him. He has gotten people to give us, for our automotive program, thousands of dollars of equipment and lifts and stuff like that, man, because he wants to help those kids. Of course, they're a bank of talent for his industry, but Jim Marsh is the type of guy that when we started this program, he says, Lonnie, this is bigger than me. Why don't you come to a meeting of all the owners of dealerships here in Southern Nevada? And he introduced the program to them as well. So he's just, I've been blessed to meet really, really caring people. You wouldn't know that until you meet them, until you've been around them.
I want to talk a little bit more about that, Lonnie, because again, like you said, you've been around a long time, and you
born and raised in Vegas, 1952. I'm 70 years old, man.
And you throw these names that you mentioned, Lonnie. People say, how does he know Steve Wynn in person, and Elaine Wynn and Jim Marsh? And these are people we all see on TV, but they're your friends. Cliff Finley. And so, how do you know all these people?
Well, when I played ball, that picture, when the Las Vegas native went into the game, the boys, the Guns, the Winds, and everybody would
Gucci Row.
They would get up and clap for the homeboy. And so I got to know them, and then when they found out that I graduated with my hotel degree, I had jobs coming out of my ear. So, I've known them, and they know me, and they know my passion, and they know what I do. I've had, if you go to YouTube and type in "Let Las Vegas Be Your Classroom," that's actually my classroom where I invite Elaine Wynn to come and talk to my students. Bill Paulus, all of the captains of industry, I still have those relationships with them, and they remember me. And I've had Governor Bob Miller to speak to my class and talk about the hospitality business and the evolution thereof. Speaking of evolution, that's the name of my podcast, Las Vegas Hospitality Evolution.
We're going to put that here for our viewers on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're on. We're going to launch on almost every major platform. And so we have a chance of millions of people to see us, and I'll talk about this evolution and the greatness of Las Vegas. People just think that I don't have to explain to you how special this town is. Yeah. The people that tourists that come here, they don't believe that we have churches or anything. They just think you and I were born on a crap table. Right. So and that's changing because we're evolving. We're getting pro teams here. People are starting to look and say, hey, I wouldn't mind living in Vegas. Our school district has some challenges. Our school district, really, I'm a product of the school district. But when you're the fastest growing city in the world in the United States for years, you have some major challenges to overcome, man. Mm-hmm. You're building schools and you're trying to recruit, and people need to understand that our superintendent is doing to me a great job. He's introduced a lot of things that he doesn't get credit for, and it's unfortunate that you got in this time the haters come out, and so when you're in a position of authority, sometimes you have a target on you, but we have a great city here. And pretty soon, if we just support our infrastructure, it'll get better. Workforce connections, the job that you guys do for the least of these, man. I'm just blessed and happy to be, a friend of Workforce Connections, and you guys have always supported what we've done. You came to our graduation. You could have gone somewhere else.
Let's talk about that day a little bit,
Okay.
Lonnie, because you invited me, and I went to the Jim Marsh dealership, got to talk to Jim a bit, and happy to see him healthy. But the most impressive thing that morning was, again, you've told us about the almost decades now that you're helping people enter the hospitality industry through this training. Young people, older people, the reentry population who, again, like you said, it's a business. It's a really social imperative, but also an economic imperative, because we're helping them move from dependency on the system to self-sufficiency, from being part of the tax burden, if you will, to being part of the tax base. So it's really a win-win. But now you have a new project, and it's in the automotive industry, and so it's a brand new industry. And I got to see the first 4 graduates from this pilot, if you will, young people excited about the trade. And the most important thing, not only were they graduating from this basic training, it's not the end of the road, it's the beginning of their journey. But that day, because again, this is important, the employer, and I've heard that not just Jim Marsh, but many other dealerships want to see more of these graduates because they need workers. And so that day, I learned that they were going to start work that following week, that following Monday, they were starting work under the supervision of a master mechanic as a paid intern into that dealership. And so what a great connection. They're not going to school and hoping to get a job. They're going to school as soon as you graduate. Jim Marsh and other dealers are going to hire you. So tell us about this program, this new chapter in your life about getting into the automotive industry.
Well, as things evolve, and you want to train for industries that need workers. So the automotive business, I've been on the Better Business Bureau executive board with Jim Marsh for at least a decade. And one thing led to another. He knows that I have a training school. And we got into a conversation, maybe 5 years ago, and then and it led to that graduation. When good people, yes, he's going to benefit from it. But you know what? When academia interfaces with industry for a win-win scenario, that's the key for our clients, man. If you're training just to be training and they don't have a job to go to, as you well know, you were at the graduation, they would have hired them the next day. But that was on a Wednesday? No, they would have hired them Friday, but they waited till Monday. When you find industries, and especially after COVID, that need entry-level workers to sustain and to grow their industry, that's when people like me go in and talk to Jim Marsh's his automotive people, the people that are his industry experts, and say simply as an academic, what skill sets do you want people to have that you will hire? And they tell you that, and you write that into the curriculum, and you really hone in on the things that they emphasize. And so that is what we want to do. The Hospitality International Training. We want to go right now. I'm working with a gentleman that is going to be our first teacher for electronics, and to render the kids CEs. Now you correct me because you're smarter than I am. They're going to be electrical
continuity.
Right, that's the position. That's the position. So they can hire, the union will hire them if they have that certificate. Or they can take them and put them in an apprenticeship program so they can become journeymen or wiremen. And so these are really, really good jobs. And by the way, those kids that you saw graduate, they started at $16 an hour. And you know, good things happen to good people. I kept talking to your people, and they said, you know something, you can tell Jim Marsh that we can help him do this. Because Jim Marsh was paying for the $16 an hour. We can help him and relieve him of some of that pay. Workforce can do that. I said, are you kidding me? She said, yeah, it's like a WEX program, work experience. I say, wow, man, wait till we tell him that. I say, I tell you what, you tell him. And so when we didn't tell Jim at the beginning, we told his Mr. Andy Kirby. We told him, and he says, Lonnie, you can't, you got to be kidding me. They can do that? I let her talk. I didn't want to put my neck on the line. So she said, yes, we can do that, and we can do this, and we can do wraparound services. And he says, man, this thing is getting better and better, Lonnie. You know, and so now here is a guy, Jim Marsh was ready to pay all of this money for these, you know, to keep the program going. And now because of his partnership, and being a part of this family where workforce is trying to help people, you know, now industry benefits. And so Mr. Marsh is going to help me get into other industries, HVAC. You know, he has casinos as well. So he has some connections in HVAC. I didn't ask him for that. That's his heart that's doing that, man. He loves those. You know, we had
and for our listeners, Lonnie, that don't know what HVAC, tell them what HVAC is.
Man, you tell them what it is, man.
So HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Like you said, right. That's an occupation that's always in demand here in this hot town for hotels and casinos, schools, facilities. So that's another in-demand occupation.
Absolutely. If we were doing this podcast and no air conditioning was going on, how long this podcast gonna last?
That's
Not
right.
too long, man. So yeah, you're right. We have to go to industries that are growing and that need a bank of talented people. And that's where HIT is working with your great organization and people that you empower to make this happen. And it's a labor of love for me. Yep. You know, a lot of my guys that work for me, they're half my age. And they don't believe it when I tell them I'm 70, man. You know, come on, let's get it cracking here.
Yeah.
You know, you have no excuse. You're only 40. You know, so but you got to have the passion of wanting to help people, and I know that's where your heart is from, man.
Yeah, and I think knowing you, Lonnie, for years now, it's evident your passion. It's in the work. It's proven in the outcomes. When I saw those 4 kids, I thought about how their journey had just begun. But the master mechanic that was going to mentor them and train them was making 6 figures.
Oh,
and so they are on their way to that. I'm glad that you've shared with us. You know, you've moved us through the journey through your basketball days, hospitality, and now these new industries, automotive, electricity, HVAC is exciting. Plumbing. Yeah. All of this is going to mean that young people will get the skills they need to pay the bills. They'll get careers, jobs, be able to be self-sufficient. The last question I want to ask you is something that I think ties into what you just said, passion, people, because, you know, as you say, Workforce Connections is about those people that we talked about. We believe it only happens through partnerships. That's how we unlock the possibilities that you were describing. But we have to work together. So during the podcast today, you've mentioned several friends. You've mentioned Chef Jeff, of course, who I know you hired years ago. We believe we talked about our friend Jack Martin from the Department of Juvenile Justice Services, a board member here at Workforce Connections. You've mentioned Superintendent Jara, who's also a member.
Not to cut you off, I want to say this. When I was saying about Superintendent Jara, the things that he is doing that he doesn't get credit for, he has. The school district has asked me to go to these what they call behavioral schools, because the psychographics of the behavioral kids are similar to Mr. Martin's, only they're not, incarcerated. And Jack had a lot to do with that relationship. So there are a lot of kids that are dropping out of school because they don't want to go to college. There's no reason. But if we can have these programs where they must, I'm working with Principal Sherpin, where they must, to be in these programs and to have them paid for, you still have to go and get your English and your math and all of that and get your diploma. If your grades go down, then you're coming out of the program. But we think, and Superintendent Jara, man, it pains me, and I know a lot of stuff is political. A lot of people hate you for whatever reason, but this program of taking kids out of the shadows and saying, hey, come back to school. You don't want to go to college? How about getting a job at $22 an hour as a plumber? How about this? How about that? All you got to do, and they're smart enough to do it. What I learned about people that are incarcerated is what you said. By the grace of God, we didn't get caught. There are a lot of smart people that's locked up. They might have made a wrong decision or got caught up with the wrong people, but we can't throw them away. They're human. They're human like we're human, and they deserve another chance. And those that want to be a willing participant in their success, we're not going to be dealing with disciplinary problems. That's a waste of time. Either you're going to be a willing participant, or we go to someone that really want to change their life and change their family and stuff. But I wanted to say this about Superintendent Jara and the school district. They're starting these programs for kids in these behavioral schools where they're saying, or kids that have dropped out of school and say, hey, you know what? School is fun. Come back. Why don't you? Do you like automotives? Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? And guess what? If you graduate and you keep going to your classes, keep your nose clean, when you graduate, you're gonna graduate into a job, or maybe before graduation. So I think that's pretty innovative. I think that's creative. I think that's caring. I think there's a lot of thought process that's in that, and that's that chemistry with Jack Martin, the superintendent, yourself, that really know what it takes to reach these kids, and so I wanted to say that about him.
Yeah. Thank you.
So people will know why I said that. All the haters, all the people that want to boo-hoo, all this stuff. If you don't have anything good to say, or you don't have any remedy, keep your mouth shut. Don't just come and anybody can tear down people. That's one of my pet peeves. If you don't have anything good to say or anything to offer the least of these or anyone else or people in your position, if you can't go and say, Mr. Cruz, I got an idea. What do you think about this? And you and I have had these conversations. And you say, Lonnie, that might work, and you get that encouragement. That's important. Right now in the space that we're living in, how the world is today, we need people to come together. I love it. People, partnerships makes possibilities, man. It will make it happen. So I wanted to say that about him. I'm sorry for getting
I appreciate it. I appreciate it because you've answered the last question. Really, it was about how do we work together? And you've said that. I think we have to come together, lower egos. These positions in the public eye come with that, as you said, Dr. Jara's position, mine. You are open to be criticized, and that's okay. That's part of the position. But as you say, I think if you get to know the people, undoubtedly there's always they're coming from the right place in their heart. They're not perfect. They're not making always the right decisions, but that's our calling to do this work together. You mentioned, CCSD for us is one of our most important partners because we believe that the K through 12 system, the education system, is the earliest piece of this talent development pipeline, this bank of talent that you're talking about. So working really hard with them. I'll share a thing with you that I think you know. You mentioned the academic centers, which are sometimes called behavioral schools, but
I got jumped on for saying
behavioral schools. Yeah, me too.
I got jumped on, man, by the principal. It's academic.
Yeah, I wanted to let our listeners know that's the new, right? We call them academic centers. And I wanted to thank our partners at DETR, the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation, because they just passed on to us almost $250,000 to help equip those schools with more vocational training equipment. Beautiful. I know you mentioned them. And also, again, in about 4 weeks, I think, maybe less. I don't know. August 1st is coming pretty quick, but no, the school year starts. But we will be inaugurating what's called the Central Career Technical Academy on the site of the old Bishop Gorman High School on Maryland Parkway.
I kind of heard about that.
And so it will be the first school in the nation. I'll say that again, the very first school in the nation. We can criticize a lot of things, but we're not celebrating the wins. Just a month ago, the Votech High School on the hill there on Mountain Vista was called the #1 magnet school in the nation. #1 magnet school in the nation. And again, this new Career Technical Academy will be the only school in the nation to have a built-in. It was designed from the beginning. Again, thanks to our friends at the Clark County School District. The architects designed it in there. It was built. It's the only school in the nation that will have a one-stop for youth there. An American Job Center, in other words, one of our places. And it will be built into that school so those young people and their families can access the resources without having to get on a bus, go somewhere else. So, Lonnie, I wanted to thank you for being here with us today and kind of turn over the mic back to you for your final thoughts on, everything we've talked about today.
I just think, Workforce Connections, the people that's involved, you, yourself, all of us need to really come together for our youth. Let's put down all of this, whatever political garbage. It's hurting our kids. Let's try and get along with people or listen to people that may be a little different from us, but they may have something to say, and there could be some happy medium. That is what we need for our kids. If we say we love our kids, well then let's display that love by trying to see what you just told me about the old Gorman school. We need to celebrate that. We need to celebrate that we're going to have the only school like that, and that many kids are going to come out and be able to have disposable income, great careers that they love doing. And so we're given that opportunity. So support, those individuals that are trying to do the best for our kids. If you say you really love your kids, you'll stop all the hate mongering and all of this political crap that's out there, and you're really missing out on opportunities to help your kids. So that's basically what I want to say. When do we eat?
Yeah, right after this. Well, first we got to go outside and do one of those 360 dunks you talked about. You got to show us those skills. But Lonnie, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you do. The community is better because of you, your organization, your family. So thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
Well, that's it for this episode of the WC Podcast. We hope to see you in the next one. Until next time, stay safe. Lonnie, thank you for staying over for our bonus segment called Against the Wall. Are you ready to play?
Yes.
All right. Our first segment is called Your Favorites. I'm going to just ask you for a category, and you're going to give me your favorite one. So first, we're going to start with your favorite holiday.
Christmas.
Your favorite food.
Oh, man, I got too many favorites. Chicken. I don't know.
Very good. Your favorite book.
I have to say the Bible.
That's what I would have thought. Your favorite outdoor activity.
Favorite outdoor activity. Evening my tan at the beach.
Nice. Your favorite place to go with your family?
Out to dinner or something.
Okay. Your favorite sport to watch in person?
Basketball.
Your favorite UNLV athlete of all time?
Oh, man. I'm going to say Eddie Owens,
Yep.
all-time leading scorer.
We talked about him today. Your favorite UNLV coach of all time?
Well, Coach Tark.
Your favorite way to relax?
Favorite way to relax? I guess in a hot tub or something.
Very good. Now, not the same hot tub with Anderson Hunt and...
Man, don't start no mess, man.
So you made it through our segment called Your Favorites, Lonnie. You did pretty good. How you feeling?
I feel good.
All right. The next segment, we're warming up. The next segment is called Tough Choices. So I'm going to give you two things. You're going to pick one. Would you rather dunk the rock or hit a three-pointer?
Oh, I'd rather dunk.
Yeah. 360.
Back in the day. I can't jump over a dime right now.
Here's your second one. Run and gun or Princeton offense?
Run and gun.
All the time. Sleep in or have a hearty breakfast?
Sleep in, I guess.
Well, this is a tricky one, so be ready. A juicy steak or a veggie platter?
See,
Think about it.
a veggie platter.
All right. Would you rather watch sports or actually play the sport?
At my age, 70, watch.
A night out at a sports game or at a concert?
Sports game.
Another tricky one. Be
Oh,
careful.
hold on. Let me go back. Concert.
A concert. What artist?
Oh, God.
The Winans. Anita Baker.
I wouldn't mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
Anita
yeah.
is
I like
really
Anita.
good.
This is another tricky one, Lonnie. Ready? With dinner, red or white wine?
I don't drink.
Neither. Very good. See, I almost got you on that
Yeah.
one. Here we go. Final segment, Lonnie, is called Finish the Sentence. We're entering the final stretch. You ready?
Okay.
I'm going to give you 90% of the sentence. You're going to finish it. Not many people know that Lonnie likes to...
Swim.
Okay, a swimmer. Now, if Lonnie could have, he would have...
Played professional basketball.
All right. I think you could have. You should have gone to Italy.
I was a young kid.
Yep.
At least I could have picked up the language. They weren't paying enough.
Okay. If Lonnie had a reality TV show about his life, the title of his show would be?
Oh, I don't.
I know
The
it's gonna
title?
Have, it's gonna have thunder in it. Something thunder.
No,
Oh, okay.
God first.
All right. I love that. 3 words that describe Lonnie are?
Describe my physical? Or?
No, to describe Lonnie as a person.
Happy, generous, and passion.
Very good. I agree. Lonnie's biggest joy in life is?
Helping somebody.
And final question, Lonnie. Doing the WEC podcast today was?
Fun. A lot of fun.
Awesome.
A lot of revealing.
All right. Well, Lonnie, thank you for staying over and doing our bonus segment, Call Against the Wall.
All right.